What we need to do is you need to go to File on your Autodesk Maya, and you go down to, there's a project window. That's what we need to do. We need to go project window, click that, and you'll have this window. Yeah, everyone got this? It's under File, Project Window. Okay. As you see, because I worked on my Maya on different projects, now it's set to my previous project, which is, this is not the project I want to use for my modeling can. So I can quickly click this new button. You see there's a name, current project name, and there's new button. So if you click that new button, and you can rename your project, so you can rename it. So I can say modeling Coke can. Location should be fine on U drive, or if you want to make a soft folder like U drive Maya classes, you can do that as well. I'm fine with that. Then I go to accept. Right? So what happened is, if you go back to your U drive again, so if you go back to your drive or the location you create the project, you should have a new folder. Maybe I can change date modified. So I have a folder called modeling Coke can. Inside that, this folder now have a structure of your project, which is you got all this the folders, and again source images as well. The easiest way to check your project is set in the right place is you can quickly go to render settings, which is you can find the icon on the top center. There's a slate icon with the gear. That's the render settings. So if you quickly go in, we're not rendering anything, but if you just click that render setting window, okay. So if you have a render setting window, does everyone have this? You don't? There's icon right up here, which is you don't. Alright, okay. In that case, I'll probably show you how to turn these icons on. But you can still go to Windows, Rendering Editors, and you'll see Render Settings. Yeah? Got it? Good. So once you click that, you will have this window. The only thing we need to see, have a look at, is this path. So you see there's a tiny letter says path, and now my path is set to U drive modeling Coke can images. Right? That's my project folder. So if you go to Windows again and go to Settings and Preference and go to Preference, that's where you can find your preference setting of your Maya. Then there's quite a few things you need to have a look at, but first we need to do is actually go to Settings tab. So you see there's the list of menus on the left hand side, says it called categories, and you will see settings right above the animation. So if you go to settings, we're not actually making any animation here yet, but Maya always have a preset of 24 frames per second. What we need to do is to change this to 25 frames per second, because we are using 25 frames per second PAL system. Is anyone from America? They're using 29.97 or 30 frames per second NTSC. But in UK, it's PAL system. 25 frames per second means you're using only 25 images to make a 1 second animation. And linear unit, that depends on your circumstances. In this case, we are making Coke can, and I want to make my Coke can in the real life size. So that means it's probably easier using my linear to centimeters, so I can make a smaller model. Or if you're actually making like a life-size character, like a 2 meter high or something, then you can maybe change to meter or centimeters. If you're making like a super small objects, you can again change to millimeters if you like. But for now, I can put to centimeters. It's fine. I can simply save it once you're done. Save that. To rotate your camera on the viewport, you can hold Alt key and the left mouse click to rotate your camera, or orbit, we call it orbit. Middle mouse button, which is actually your wheel button, you can click it. The middle mouse click, hold Alt key, middle mouse click to move your camera. Hold Alt key and right click to zoom in and out. Yeah, that's the basic camera control in Maya. But if you want to change your camera view to other view, if you press spacebar once, just tap it, then you will get this 4 different screens, which is, you can see there's top view, perspective view, front view, and side view. As anyone can see, actually I have more information than you, I guess. I got some poly count here, and I got camera names. But I think it's quite useful to have a camera name display. Does anyone have camera name display? Everyone? Yeah? If you don't, then there's a way you can do is go to display menu. And it's on, yep, heads up display. And you can say camera names. So if you have this option on, then you will see your camera names. I'll turn off my poly count for now. To create your model, it's always good to have a reference image. For example, in our case, we need to have a reference image of Coke can, so I can build a model based on that. We can simply import some image on our camera view, so we can put an image on the background, like a light box. So we can put that image. Then we can create a model. So if you go to front camera, so if you see, press spacebar once to make sure you have this 4 camera view, and then go down to front camera. You just leave your mouse cursor on top of your front camera view and press spacebar once. You can go to view menu on the viewport and go down to image plane, and then go to import image inside the source images folder. So I can look at these 3 images from my source images folder of the project. So this is a front view, so obviously I need to have a Coke can front image should be on. So I can put this Coke front.jpg, select that and press open, and now you have image show up. If you go to the folder I gave you again, yeah, you're right, which is the can size document, the text file. I have a dimension, so 6.35 wide and 12.192 centimeter tall, or I have inches as well if you're familiar with inches. So basically that's the dimension. So we need to make sure our image is also matching with this size. Then we can build our model, and my model will be exactly the same size as the life-size Coke can. Make sense? Yeah. To create a measure tool, you need to go to create menu again. So go create, measure tools, distance tool, right? If you hold X key, then you can create a locator, snap to this grid. So it means that you can create the one locator or snap to this grid, other one to snap to the other grid, so you can have a straight line. Hold X key, create one here, one down here. Because I don't see my locator from my viewport, so in that case I can grab my outliner and grab my locator 1 from outliner. And then what I can do, I can simply just move it down using my move tool, which is, you can find your move tool from the left hand side corner of your screen here, or you can press W key on your keyboard to change your tool to move tool. Then I can grab this green arrow to move it down. The green arrow is a y-axis, so I can simply move only up and down. Move it down and make sure my locator, yeah, it's kind of hard to see where's my locator is actually pointing at. So maybe I can select my image plane. You can simply left click and drag to select your image plane, and also you will see your image plane attributes appears on your right hand side. Does everyone see image plane's attributes? You can select your image plane by left click and drag, the same as you're selecting objects. Or if you can't do that, then you can go back to your outliner again, go to Windows, Outliner, and you'll see there's image plane 1. That's your image plane. As soon as you click that image plane 1, then you will see your attribute editor of your Coke can image plane. What I can do is actually I can change my alpha gain of image plane shape 1. Yeah, make sure you got this attribute editor icon is on. So if you just leave your mouse cursor for a few seconds, you'll see show hide attribute editor. Make sure you have that on. Make sure you're on the image plane shape 1 tab. There's a 2 tab, by the way. One is image plane 1 and there's another one, it's called image plane shape 1. So if you go to shape 1 tab, and then you will find alpha gain. So I can bring down the alpha gain to about 0.5. So alpha value 1 means your full, basically full opacity, so you won't see anything transparent. But if you bring down to about 0.7 or maybe 0.5, yeah, it's better. So then my image plane now is kind of half transparency. So that means I can see my locator and my image plane at the same time, as you see here. So now actually, and I can again grab my locator 1 from outliner, use my move tool and select my yellow arrow this time because I used that y-axis arrow which is green already. So now it's changed to yellow. Then make sure your locator is hitting the top. Actually, you need to bring it down a little bit because actually the area we need to set our locator is the side, not the top, because this photograph itself actually has a perspective. So obviously this rim on the can, the front bit is closer to the camera. That's why it's actually wider and is taller. But this is actually the point where my can should be end. So I'm gonna leave my locator to the side. I can do the same for my lower locator, locator 2. Again, I can select my locator 2 from outliner. Then I can bring it up using my move tool. Again, it's W key on your keyboard, or you can click this icon, move tool, to bring this up. And this time again, I'm gonna put my locator to match this locator the height with the side of this curve, because this again, this area here is actually taller or lower than actual size because it's perspective. And now it says, and now if you put locator in the right position, now you can see, you can read this measure with 12.369209 which is that means it's about 20 centimeters high. Double check my can, it's actually not far off, so it's 12.192 tall. So I can simply just scale it down. So I can grab, okay, if I select all by left drag and select it, so I'm gonna select my locator 1 to distance dimension, which is all my distance tool, plus image plane. You can hold control key to select multiple items from outliner. So make sure you got this outliner. Again, you can find it under Windows, outliner. And I'm selecting image plane 1, hold control key and select locator 1, 2 and distance dimension. Now if I scale up using scale tool again, I'm gonna minimize my outliner. Just turn off my tool settings. I can use my scale tool on your left hand side on your screen, click it, or you can press Alt key to scale up and down. So if I trying to scale up, or there's something happens, for some reason all my locators and my image plane is scaled down in different rates. Everything independently scale up and down, which is not good. So I can undo your previous action by press J key. So it's It's not Control Z. Control Z still works, but Z key is undo in Maya. So I can undo it. To fix this problem, you need to create this multiple selected item to one group. So then you can only scale that group to scale everything in the right ratio. Otherwise, every individual component will scale up and down on their own ratio. So that's why this weird scale happens. So if we go back to outliner again, so Windows, outliner. Now all these items are still selected. If you don't, if it doesn't, then you can simply go and select image plane 1, hold Control key, locator 1, 2, distance dimension 1 as well. So we're selecting 4 different items. Yeah, if you go to edit, then go down to hierarchy section, there is a command called group. It's a Control G for hotkey. So if you group it, then you can see all my items go on under the group 1 node. It's like a folder. So instead of we are selecting this individual items, we can simply select our group 1 and then we can scale up. Now you can see everything is scaled up right way. At same time, you can see my measure dimension is also calculating, measuring the scale of my image planes as well. So I can scale down, actually scale down a little bit. Make sure you are about 12.192. I think that's probably close as I can get, which is 12.2. Or I can go to channel box layer editor. You see there's a channel box icon, which is looks like it's the papers stack them up each other like this. If you click that, you will see channel box layer editor. Then you can also change your scale value of your group 1 by typing it. So at the moment it's set to 9.987. So maybe I can try 0.99. That is actually quite, it's bigger, so maybe 0.97. That's maybe too small. Maybe 0.98. Yeah, that'll be the closest. So this 0.98 actually works perfectly. It's a 12.1167. This channel box.
Yes.
Yeah, you can click this channel show hide channel box icon. So is it blued? Blue is highlighted as a blue. Then you'll see this channel box layer editor tab. If you click it, then you'll see it. Make sure you're looking at the group 1, which is you need to select your group 1 from outliner. So go to Windows, outliner, and then there's you should have a group 1.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So select that group 1, then you will see the group 1 attributes. And I scale it down to about 0.2 notch. So it's a 0.98. So now then I have my measurement set to 12.1167, which is about, it's a bit smaller than actual can, but I think that'll be okay. Or maybe I can try maybe 988. Oh, it's too big. 986. Yeah, that's actually even better. 0.986 works perfect for me. We can actually start modeling our can from here. So there you go. So we have this can. But when you're trying to model your can, obviously that will cover your fronts and side, because obviously it's a cylindrical model. But at the same time, you might need to have reference for top view as well, right? Because you need to create some top shapes of the can as well. So it means that we maybe can do the image plane set up for the top view camera as well. So the camera from top, so we can put this image on the top view camera, so we can look at our images, reference image from top view. Make sure you go to top view camera this time. So go to top view, and I'll do exactly the same. I can go to view, image plane, import image, and go down to source images folder, and I got top.jpg. This is the image for the top view of can, and open it so I can see this. I can go to create and measure tools again, distance tool, and this time hold X key to snap my locator and another locator on the other side. So I have two locators appears. So I think we need to again play our image plane alpha gain values. So if you go to select your image plane by left click and drag it, or the more precise way to select your image plane is go to outliner, so Windows outliner, and select your image plane 2 and go down to your attribute editor. Make sure you're on image plane shape tab rather than image plane 2, and you can change your alpha gain of this image plane to 0.5. Then I can select my locator 3 first, use my move tool and move it to the left, and I can do the same for locator 4. Select my locator 4 and move it to x-axis and move it and match it. Make sure my locators are sit on the side of the can on both sides. Yeah, so basically we are repeating same process for the front view image plane. So we build our image plane, and then we are creating this distance tool using two locators, and then you select those locators and move it and match it, place it on the side, both sides of the can. And now at the moment it says it's 7.77977, which is slightly smaller, again smaller than, actually slightly bigger than my actual size. It should be 6.35. I can again select my image plane 2 from outliner. So again, outliner, Windows, outliner. Then select your image plane 2, locator 3, locator 4, and distance dimension 2. So I'm selecting all these 4 items and group it again. This time we can control G to group it. So now we have a group 2. So on the group 2, then I can scale it down to make sure this goes to 6.93 or something, 6.35, yeah, 6.35. So I can still scale down to 6.35, roughly there. I think a scale 0.8 should work, or 8.1. So I can maybe type 0.81. The 35, so maybe 0.815. 0.815. Yep, I think we are ready to build actual model. Right, so in the perspective view we can see our image planes and also locators and everything ready. But it's personal preference, but usually I leave this image plane only on the front camera and top camera. I don't want to see this image plane on the perspective camera. So if you select your image plane, for example, the top image plane first, then if you go to attribute editor, so here's attribute editor tab, make sure you're on the image plane shape 2. You see the same place you can find the alpha gain. You also have the option on top of your image plane attribute says display, and has an option called says looking through camera or in all views. So you can either turn on in all view, means you can see this image plane from different camera view as well, or you can only need to see this from orthographic view, is like top view camera in this case. So I might just choose looking through camera only, top view. So as you can see, my top view image plane is disappear from my perspective camera. I can do the same for my front image as well. So I can select my front view image plane, and then make sure display setting is set to looking through camera front. So that means I can see my image plane still from my top view camera and my front view camera, but it won't show up on perspective camera. Make sense? At the same time, we still have this the measurement tools, we need to keep it. Maybe we should keep it for if we still need to have some adjustment or refining the scales and stuff, we still might be keep this, but I don't want to see this during my modeling process. So in that case, we don't need to delete it. We can simply hide it, and then we can unhide it once we need it again. So if you go back to outliner, go to Windows, outliner, make sure you both group 1 and 2 opened. So group 1 and 2. Then I can select my locator 1, hold control key to select locator 2, distance dimension 1 as well, and then hold control and select locator 3, 4, and distance dimension 2. So basically I'm only leaving image plane 1 on the group, each group nodes. I'm selecting other locator 1, 2, and display distance dimension. I'm selecting those 3, so 6 altogether components. Then I can go to Control H, or you can go to display, hide, and hide selection. And then you can see on the outliner all those selected components becomes grayed out, means it's a hidden, and also it's not showing up on your viewport, either on top, front, or my perspective view. So anytime you want to show this again, then you can simply select them from outliner again, select them all, and then you can press Shift H to unhide it. Yeah, so it will show up again, but you can simply Control H to hide it. We probably better start from cylinder, right? So I mean, you can create your model, maybe start from cube and subdivide it or adding more edges. But in my idea, it's probably easier to start from cylinder, because cylinder is the shape, the basic shape of your can, right? So we can start from cylinder, and we can add more edges and push in and up to creating these shapes. So if I just go to create menu, make sure your menu set is set to modeling. You see there's a wee drop down menu on left top corner. Make sure you got the modeling menu on, so then you can access all those menu set you need for modeling. And then we can go to create polygon primitives and cylinder right here, cylinder.
Sorry, Sean, the drop-down menu is missing from this.
Oh, do you? Alright, in this case probably you can, it sometimes happens, then you have to go to display UI elements, got status line on, yeah, then you'll see your modeling menu set. So now I can go zoom into front view camera, then I can simply just grab this cylinder. If you don't see, if you want to see your cylinder from wireframe mode, so you can see your image plane and your cylinder, you can simply press number 4 key, the cylinder wireframe mode. Number 5 key, by the way, that's a shade mode, so you can see your object in the shaded mode. I can use my scale tool, R key, and I can scale up my cylinder. So I'm trying to match the edge, both edges on the side left and right, to match up with the image plane. Then I can grab this y-axis scale to scale up, and this time I can line up the bottom edges to the bottom, and the top edges near the top. So in this case we can go to modeling toolkit. So you see there's icon on top right of you on the screen. There's a cubes and T ruler shape icon. So in the modeling toolkit, you can select the different component modes. So basically, at the moment, we are on the object mode, so we can select our object as object. So you can select this object as a whole. But you have different component mode, which is the vertex mode. So if you click this vertex mode, yes, now you can see there's pink point appears on your model. That's called vertices. So now you can select those vertices and move it one by one, or you can select the multiple different vertices and move it at once. Edge mode, you can select those individual edges, or you can select edge groups or entire edges and move it. Face is basically you can select those faces of your objects and modify it, move it, rotate it, scale it, extrude it. And you also have a UV as well, but in this case we don't have to use a UV. So I think it's probably vertex mode is good for changing this position of this top edges. So I can go to vertex mode by click this vertex selection icon, and hotkeys for that is F9 key if you want to use that. F9 is vertex mode, F10 is edges, F11 is face, and object mode is F8. So F8, F9, F10, 11. It's handy. F9 key for vertex mode. And then you can left click and drag to create this marquee selection on the top view. So I'm only selecting this vertices on top of your cylinder. If you select them, it looks like you're only selecting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 11 vertices. Actually looks like it. But if you go back to perspective view, now you can see now we are actually selecting more than 12. We're selecting all these top vertices using this orthographic view. Then we can go back to our front view. This time I'm using move tool, so W key on your keyboard, and grab this Y axis to move it down, or actually up a little bit. So make sure my top edge, the vertex or this edge on the top of my cylinder, lined up with the image plane where the can top will be. I can do the same for the bottom bits. I think this bottom looks fine, but just in case I can select, drag, left click and drag, select all these vertices on the bottom. I can grab this move tool, again W key on your keyboard, Y axis tiny bit, move it up a little bit, and there you go. Now we have edges lined up. And if you go back to your perspective view, that's what it looks like. F8 key once you're done, let's come back to object mode again. Actually, I can see my top image plane is slightly offset as well. It actually looks a little bit smaller than what it should be. So in this case, I can simply just grab this image plane from top view and just using my scale tool and scale up a little bit to make sure my image plane actually matches my cylinder, because my cylinder is already lined up, you know, the same scale, or is lined up with my front view image plane. So I can just do like a minor fix for my top view image plane. So now then whatever we do on this cylinder should match perfectly with my front view image plane and the top view image plane as well. So go back to my front view. So what we need to do now is that I want to add some details. Basically this cylinder, our can is not just cylinder shape, we have some curves. So basically the top edges are actually narrower than the bodies, and same on the bottom as well. So we need to change the shape so we have a wider body radius and the bottom. To achieve that kind of shapes, what we can do is we can simply add edges. So to add edge loops, again in modeling toolkit, make sure you are on the modeling toolkit, and then you can go down and have a look at the multi-cut tool. There's a tool called multi-cut. So this tool allows me to just cut my model, whatever angles. Obviously that's not good for this situation. I can undo that. What I like to do is actually I can cut group. So if you hold Control key while you have this multi-cut tool, then you can see, you can, well, probably easier just show it from perspective view. So if you hold Control key, now you can see I can cut it as a loop. So I'm not cutting one by one, I can just simply cut edge loop. Hold Control key and Shift key, and also you can snap this loop to anywhere, like any percentage wise. I think my setting is set to 10% wise, so means that I can hold Control key and Shift key. Every 10% notch, I can go back to the front view and hold Control key, and this time I'm just holding Control key without Shift key because we don't need to snap it, and I can roughly place my edge loops where the body ends, so where it gets narrower. So hold Control key and about here, left click, so now I have edge loop happens. Yeah, so if I turn off my image plane just for show, this is what it looks like. So I have, 1, 2, 3 edge loops vertically, and for the bottom as well I can hold Control key and slide up and make sure I can create another edge loops where the bottom of the body gets narrower, starting narrower, so I can add the edge loops there as well. As you see, this is not linear curves happens, actually has like nice and smooth curves happens, so it means that we probably need to have another edge loops on the bottom, just right underneath of the top edges. So I can hold Control key and create another edge loops about here. I'm gonna do the same for bottom as well. So I go down bottom, and again you can see there's a bit of curve happens, so I can add edge loops where the curve happens. So from just meanwhile, I can turn off my grid as well. Just don't want to show the grid. So meanwhile, this is our result. So we actually adding 1 edge loops, 2 edge loops, 3 and 4. We add in this 4 edge loops. Yeah, good. So what I like to do to create a shape for top, I can just work on top shapes. So I can double click, so it's probably easier to do that in perspective view. So go back to perspective view. So left click on this empty space to deselect everything. So make sure you deselect everything. Then make sure you're on the top, you're looking at the top of the can. Make sure you are on the edge mode, so you can go back to modeling toolkit and select edge mode, or that's F10 I believe. F10. Then if you just go and leave your mouse cursor on top of those edges you want to select it, then if you double click it, you usually select your entire loop. Then I can select the second edge loops from the top with the same method. So I can hold Shift key and double click. So now I have 2 edge loops selected. And make sure zoom out and rotate your camera. Make sure you select only 2 edge loops. Once you have this edge loops selected, you can go back to the front view. Then you can scale it down. So you can scale it down using this center cube, which is the sky blue color cube. So I can scale it down. Maybe I can move up a little bit using move tool, W key, move up, and then maybe I can select this second edge loops and move it down tiny bit. So if I go back to my perspective view, this is what it looks like. Yeah. I can do the same for the bottom. Again, I can select my first and second edge loops from the bottom using scale tool, R key, scale it down. And then I can select the bottom edge loops and scale it down. So now if you look at my shape overall, so now I can, now is my cylinder having more detail, is slowly becoming to can shape. So make sure in the process of we doing the scaling down these edges, actually I think what happening is you're losing that B vertex. You see there's a bit of like a pick happens at those points. This vertex stays on the same spot, but we are only scaling down this edge loops. So basically the point stays there, but all the edges used to be lined up, but now it's scaled down, so it's kind of moved down, so this makes kind of be mountain shape. So we can select those, just point and scale it down, or move it down using my move tool. So you can select that one point on top and move it down. I can do the same for the bottom. There's a bit of, yeah, you see there's one vertex on the bottom, so move it up slightly so we don't have recording again. So I'm happy with my can. I need to create this tip and the pin. So the same as when you're drawing in 2D, that you need to analyze this. You need to figure out what's the shapes, and you need to break down into very simple shape first. So what I like to do is actually I want to hide my can for a moment, because we've done our can, so we don't need to see it. So I can go to outliner, or I can simply select my can and Control H to hide it, so we don't need to see this shape. If I break it down to simple shapes, then I can say this basically is a cube, isn't it? It's a cubical rectangle shapes, and then there's another rectangular shapes inside and here as well. So we can punch this point out and extrude it. So that'll be the way to do. I can go to, well, I can start from polygonal cube or plane. I can probably start from plane. So I can go to create polygon primitives and plane. Yep, plane. So here's my plane. Well, as you see, my plane has way more resolution than I need. So to fix this, I can still make sure you select your plane, but then you can go to channel box layer editor, and now you have input. Did you see inputs of your polygonal plane? Or if you don't see it, make sure you click this input to show this polyplane 1. In the moment we have subdivision level. Subdivision's width is 10, subdivision height is 10, so it means we have 10 edges and 10 edges on the vertical and horizontal. So we need to make sure change to 1 by 1, so we can start from very simple one single plane with the one face, and again go to modeling toolkit, make sure your symmetry is on, because this object is also symmetrical, and I can use my polygonal the vertex selection and select those vertices and move it to make shapes. I can simply ignore this curve on top and bottom, so I can just leave these vertices in the corner. We can always create these type of shapes later. So if I look at this from perspective view, this is it. Very simple. Plane. Back to top view. To create the shapes inside, so this shape here and this shape here, we can simply divide it in half. That means we have a room to play with that shape. We can simply extrude it in, or and also there might be an issue with the size of this part. Maybe we need to bring this up. But actually we can do that later. Actually we can just simply cut in half, so that we can have a space to add these shapes, top and the bottom. There's a V hull we need to cut out. So I'm going to use my multi-cut tool again, hold Control key to adding edges where in the half between two shapes. There you go. So now we have two faces. Now we have two faces. Right. So to create this, we can select the face. Make sure I'm on face selection. So first top face selected, then you go to extrude, play with offset. So about 0.2 seems alright. We can do the same for a bottom face as well, for that kind of shapes. So we can go there and extrude again with 0.2 offset. Okay. So this is what it looks like. So slowly getting the shapes we want. Back. Now if you press number 3 key, make sure come out from extrude, press number 3 key. This is what it looks like. It's not as bad. And of course now we can go to vertex selection mode, select those vertices and make it, actually before we do that, probably because it's still paper thin, so maybe we need to extrude this entire face to make it make some depth for this tip. So I can, before we do that, I can go to face selection mode again, select this face. For the center we need to punch out, another face we need to cut out as well, and press delete key, delete it. And now you can select entire face. So make, still you're on this face selection mode, left click and drag, select your entire face and go extrude again. And this time we're playing with thickness, oh sorry, local translate jet attributes. So about probably again 0.2, maybe 0.15. Maybe 0.1. Sorry, 0.12. Yeah. We can always change this later. But yeah, okay. So it's getting there. It's not bad. And to having this shapes, this kind of curvature on top and bottom, now I can maybe add another attributes in the center. So I can go multi-cut tool, hold control key and shift key to snap in the center, snap this cut edges in the center. Then I can use my vertex tool, select these two vertices and move it up, and also I can play with the depths. And then place my points where it should be. Might need another attributes in the center of that part. Multi-cut tool, hold shift key to snap center. I can move this up. And this point should be there and up. Multi-cut tool again to cut here, center, hold the shift key, and I can simply push this out. If you select in object mode and press number 3 key, now you can get the shape. Is not quite close, but we have perfectly nice circle on the top. But we're actually losing silhouette quite a bit here. It's just because of the resolution, because as you see, it's not much resolution. The number of polygons around this model is still quite simple shapes, so we can actually add edge groups on top and bottom to keep this corner a bit sharper and also maintains the silhouette. We can use the multi-cut tool again and hold Control key and add one edge groups quite close to the top edge groups, maybe one on the bottom as well. If you press number 3 key, now it maintains the shape a little more. So then I can grab vertex selection mode again, select these 2 vertices on the left right hand corner, and I can push it up. I can select these vertices in the center, maybe push it in. So I'm trying to follow this actual shape of this handle. Select these 2 vertices on right bottom corner. I can push it down. Maybe the 2 vertices in the center of the bottom, push it down as well. So it's getting there. I think they're quite close to what it should be. From top view, it looks pretty good. We are actually getting quite nice circular shape on top, but just it's tiny detail. But if you see the bottom cutted area, it's just supposed to be a bit more straight line, more linear rather than curves. So if you're trying to keep these smoothed curves to more straight, then you can actually add more edge groups in the center. So if you just add edge groups one here and here, it will make these edges more straight. So I'll try that. Go multi-cut tool again, hold Control key and Shift key and put it in the center. Yeah, so you can see it becomes more straight because now we have more resolution. I can do the same using multi-cut on the other side. Multi-cut tool, by the way, it doesn't work as a symmetry, so you have to do it manually. So hold Control key and Shift key again, because we know it's 50% here. So now the bottom detail is more linear than soft shapes. I also can do maybe go select those vertices and maybe play the position of these vertices, move up and down to make even more, and that looks nice. Maybe I can play with these ones as well, make sure it's a bit more circular. Very nice. Yeah, easy. right? So once I'm happy, if you look at the low polygon mode, this will go mental. But what we need is smooth preview anyway, so that's fine. And now we need to see, actually we need to create a pin. This will be super simple, super easy. What we need to do is we can simply just create a cylinder again. That'll do. So we can go to create polygon primitives and cylinder. From top view, we can scale it down using scale tool, R key. Scale it down, grab the center cube, so we can scale it down all axes, and maybe move it down. There you go. And we don't have to have this the height, so we can scale it down on y-axis, make it flatten, and also we can bring it up, so make sure this pin stays on top of my handle. Then if you press number 3 key for this guy, it's okay. Well, I think is the shapes are, again, you can see the topology or edge flow is going very weird. It's because of the lack of the resolution. So to keep this nice and clean edges on top and bottom, you can simply add more edge strips using multi-cut tool. Hold Control key, maybe in the one in the center, maybe other one in another 25% and 75%. This will make nicer shapes. The pin. So if I turn on my can as well, so go to Windows, Outliner, select P cylinder 1, and Shift H to show. Oh, the position of my handle and pin is wrong, so I think it's P plane 1 and P cylinder 2 is my handles and tip and the pin. So make sure, using the front view, make sure they are sitting on top.
How was it that you turned it visible again?
Visible is a Shift H. Select
Yeah, sure.
any hidden objects on outliner and Shift H. So if I look at my can from top, that's my can model done with this tip and the pin as well. Happy with it? Yeah. Compared to the actual can body with all these details, this pin and tip is easier to build it. Now before we wrap up this, there's a few things we need to do. First, if you look at my outliner, all my objects named wrong. It's still keeping the original mesh geometry names. For example, my can is named as a P cylinder 1. It's a polygon cylinder 1. Make sure once you finish your model, or once you create your geometry to start with your modeling, make sure you rename this. So P cylinder 1 is not a great name for this. We can double click this P cylinder 1 from outliner and we can rename it to can underscore body. Might be you curious why I'm keep using this underscore, is the Maya doesn't like to have a space. So you can either using capital and small letters to make this two separate words, or you can use underscore to give a space. P plane 1, that's the handle, so I can call it handle. And P cylinder 2 should be a pin. Okay. if you're not sure which one is which, you can simply select them from outliner and you'll see the green highlight outlined show up on your model. So now we can simply delete our group 1 and 2 if you like, because we don't need to use this image planes for the modeling anymore. We've done our modeling, so it's fine. You can simply grab this group 1 and 2 and delete them. So we can simply select this can body, handle and pin, and we can make a group again. So if you just select these 3 items and Control G to group it, so this becomes a one group 1, and now we can change this group node name as well to can underscore GRP, or why is it capital? Yeah, capital GRP for group. So now I can see my scenes. This is my can group. Every components inside is there. In this case, I can grab my group, actually group itself, and move up and down if you need it, or you can rotate everything as a one object, or scale it. Everything scaled up correctly. Otherwise, if you're actually selecting these individual objects like this instead of selecting group, if you scale up, that's what happens. Oops. This actually happens to click. Everything is separately scaled up because they have their own pivot point. Also, if you're trying to rotate them, this happens. It can be quite cool, but it's not good for in our cases. So make sure you select, you create a group for these objects, and then you can select the group, and now you can rotate as a one object, or you can scale it as a one object. Yep. And also, before we finish this, if you look at this individual objects, so for example the can body, and you can go to channel box, and now there's inputs on can body, and you should have a long list of inputs. Yeah, that's what we call as history. Yeah, everyone see that? So can body, and make sure you're on the channel box, and there will be inputs, and you will have a long list of your actions. So basically you can poly split, poly tweaks, poly extrude. So basically this is a history of what you did for this model. It might be nice if you keep this as undo history, but it's not really. They're not undo history, they're just a history. They don't do anything. It just only makes your model or scene file heavier. So once you have done all your modeling, I strongly recommend you to select those models and go edit, delete by type, history. Okay, you can simply delete those history. So now your model can be, now becomes a very clean, doesn't carry any histories. Same for the handle. Again, we have some histories there. So you can select handle and pin together and go to edit, delete by type, history. Okay. And also, if I say, I think this is the can, and as you see, my can body still have a scale value because we start creating this can body from cylinder and we scale it down and we adding those details. So we still have these values, scale X, Y, and Z. We don't have any translation rotation values, but again, it's always better to clean this up as well, so that scale 1 is this size. Yeah, we don't need to keep this weird scale values. So again, we can simply select all my geometries. So select all my geometries, and then you can go to modify, and we can freeze transformations. So that means everything should be zeroed out. So translation rotation for this can body is zeroed out. Scales now go back to 1. Same for the pin. We used to have lots of translation values and rotation values, scale value. Now all clean them up. So if anything happens, for example, if you grab this and move it by accidentally, move them. Come on. So you can move it by accident. It's like this, and move it away. To bring this all together as original model, it might take ages. It's like this guy. Move it, trying to match it. It takes ages, but now we cleaned our translation values. Now if you want to bring it back as it was, you can simply select our all geometry and type all 0 for translate and rotation some point. Yep, it comes back. And also if you change the scale as well, then make sure you select all scale value and type 1, then everything will be back as one before. So this is the way you can tidy up your model. Well, this is the end of it. So that's how you model can in Maya. Hope you enjoy it. Do you think it's quite helpful? Yeah. I'm wondering, do you have any like a brief? You need to make some 3D models on this MS? No, nothing. No. Okay. Yeah, it's fine. So this is the modeling, very basic modeling of making sodacan. So for me to explain how to model in Maya. Next week we'll do a UV mapping. So we can simply create a UV map, unwrap the UVs. So which means we can create a texture maps, and we can apply texture map to our model, and also we can render it. So see how it goes. I think the texture mapping and UV mapping maybe take it all day or maybe not, and rendering and lighting definitely takes a long time. But if just wondering if anything you guys want me to show, for example, if you have any like a kind of objects you want me to model so I can show how to do it, any ideas, let me know, and I can maybe do like a live demo type thing for a modeling session. Yeah. Okay. Good.